American investigative journalist Seymour Hersh has put out an explosive story. In essence, it says, forget everything you've been told about the way Osama Bin Laden was killed. Now, Hersh is the journalist who's broken some of the biggest stories of the past several decades: the My Lai massacre, the Abu Ghraib prison abuses. The White House is already condemning this latest report, though. Now, the Obama administration has always insisted bin Laden's whereabouts were discovered after a courier was followed to a compound outside Islamabad. That without Pakistan's knowledge, Navy SEALs attacked that compound in 2011 and killed bin Laden in a spectacular firefight. His body, they say, was later buried at sea. Hersh joined me last hour from Washington.
This is counter-narrative, and counter-narrative is very hard, particularly when most of the major media have already bitten pretty hard on the original narrative, which came in the hours and days right after the killing of bin Laden. You know, I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I mean, it did happen. The president didn't order the raid, and the SEALs, the American SEALs, competent people, did go in there and kill him. It's just everything after that is sort of, I guess you could say, was played for the election of the next year, 2012. The most critical thing about the story is this. Of course, 25 American SEALs were not going to go fly into the middle of a compound outside of Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan. We were not at war with them, to do a raid and kill an old man without knowing that there would be no opposition. SEALs are not suicidal. They're very smart, very clever, and they always do everything they can to protect themselves. The only flaw in the story was that the president was not supposed to talk about this for another week. The SEALs were supposed to go in and out, kill the guy, take the body back, and then maybe I've heard two different versions, 7 or 10 days later, the United States, the president himself, was going to announce, in a dramatic announcement like the one he did the night of the killing, that we did a drone raid in the Hindu Kush Mountains, the mountains that separate Pakistan and Afghanistan, sort of uncontested area. And we went and did an after-action look at what we bombed, and sure enough, there was a long body, and it looked very much like bin Laden. We did a DNA test, and eureka, we got him. And that would have been fine. The SEALs would have been not disclosed. Their raid would have been a secret. Their identities would remain secret. The Pakistani officials who helped us, the head of the army, a man named Kiani, and the head of the intelligence service, it's called the ISI in Pakistan, a general named Pasha, would be safe. Instead, the president, for reasons unreally known, or the best guess is political pressure, changed the call on the night of the raid and announced it without just simply disregarding the whole plan that had been created.
Why would he do that, though? I mean, you lay out in some detail what you believe actually took place, but there is that hole, frankly, in the narrative. Why would the president then, on his own, seemingly come out and tell a very different story and not stick to the plan, as you say, that had been painstakingly created?
Well, for one thing, I do get into this in the article. It was just the classic sort of issue. The president was confronted with an immediate feel-good day, re-election. It would have been it's still, most people consider it a turning point, if you will, the strongest suit he had going, that he did bin Laden in the election. It certainly helped him. And the political people in the White House that night, you know, what I do remember about it that's so interesting is that it was leaked about 9 o'clock that night, East Coast time, Washington time, that we got him, and the president was going to make an announcement imminently. And there was about a 2.5-hour delay before he came on after 11 and said what he said, which is that we did it now. And at that time, so I was told by people, I can only say with firsthand knowledge, that there was an issue. The issue was, do we do it politically and go to grab it now, or do we trust the Pentagon? Robert Gates was Republican. He was the Secretary of Defense. There was a lot of tension between the White House and Gates on a number of issues about the raid. Can we trust Gates to be quiet? And they went and did what I guess maybe any president would do. They took the high road and went public right away.
So you've got the American public right now sitting there with two remarkably conflicting versions of events. One is told to them by their president. One is told to you by people who are largely anonymous to the readers. People that you say, you know, are as highly placed as a senior U.S. official, but we don't really know much more than that. How are people meant to believe what you're telling them when it goes so sharply against what they've been told by their own government?
The perils of a free press. What can I tell you? I have no guidance for anybody about how to believe, what to believe. I can just tell you that the story, I'm certainly, I'm long of tooth, older, dumber, and crankier, and I knew this was going to cause an uproar. So did the people who, this story was very carefully checked and edited in London by the editors and fact checkers at the London Review of Books.
And so everybody let me ask you then, Seymour, how did they check that? I mean, if the sources are not revealed publicly,
they've talked to the sources. They know who they are. I can't, I've always worked that way. You know, I spent many years as an investigative reporter for the New York Times and a lot of years writing for the New Yorker on some of these same issues. I always tell the editor, everybody who deals with me knows that they're going to have to trust me and have to trust the fact checkers. And I did have one primary source, but I was also careful to say, I'm not about to go into print with one source. I went and found other people, some of whom I'd known for many years inside, and you can understand why I'd be more willing to quote a retired official than I would somebody extensively who's still in a sensitive job. The wonderful thing about America is despite every president always gives us a hard time, and we always give a president a hard time, but we still have the First Amendment. It's still there. Obama's cutting away at it, I think more so than any other president. But when you have situations in which even the president and his minions, the people around him, don't tell the truth, I'm not sure, I can't tell you Obama knew he was lying. He read a speech he was given. I don't know his state of mind about what he read. He probably thought it was accurate. But when the truth doesn't emerge, you generate a lot of resistance inside the community, especially in the American special ops community, where they really have a long standing of individual integrity. They work that way.